My mate, who's supposed to be my partner in all this, is acting like I'm just another guest. It's like I've lost my identity overnight. And to top it all off, I almost got killed by hunters. And he didn't even check on me. 3.5 tackle. May as P. Oh, I didn't have a chance to speak with Ocean during the meeting. But when I found Macy in my room, bubbling with excitement about our impending trip to Darkwood, I realized Ocean was serious about our conversation from the previous night. He genuinely wanted me to leave with him. My heart sank at the abruptness of my departure. Despite my desperate desire to go with my mate, the suddenness of it all twisted my insides. Change had always been my nemesis. I need to talk to my parents, I said, realizing I hadn't had the opportunity to speak with them over dinner. The table had been crowded with Alfred Alton, his wife Sasha, Ocean, Aaron, Macy, and her family. In an attempt to create a neutral environment, I had decided to invite Macy's family to our home instead of having Aaron visit theirs. Alfred Alton had tried to broach the subject of Ocean and me, but a single glare from me silenced him, though I could sense his internal amusement. I'd known Alfred Alton my entire life. He was like an uncle who consistently managed to annoy me, regardless of his actions. Yet, he never failed to shower me with the most extravagant gifts during holidays. Sasha, now in her late 30s and expecting their first child, stood in stark contrast to Dalton, who was in his mid. I often wondered why they had waited so long to start a family, considering their child would be the next alpha, but I knew better than to pry. As a reporter for the local news channel, Sasha frequently traveled for work. Her choice to prioritize her career over traditional alpha duties was frowned upon by some of the more conservative packs. However, I admired her determination. With her intelligence and talent, I believed she should pursue whatever path she desired. With her black curly hair and warm brown eyes, she could have been a model with her figure, but she was only a couple of inches taller than me. Alfred Alton, on the other hand, had the lightest blue eyes and looked almost white sometimes. Black and white hair framed his face and head. They were a handsome couple. Your mum cried when she saw me. I rolled my eyes at her, hearing about the antiques of my mother. She was slightly over-dramatic. I missed Tisei's cooking. She groaned getting under my blanket. Also, are you taking this bed? No, you monkhin. I'm just going to get things sent over. It feels so weird to be moving for someone I hardly know about, I confessed, finally sitting down on the sofa. She wiggled around to face me. I was the same way. But can you see yourself without him? My gut twisted at the thought of that. I wanted to talk to him, kiss him, and my lips tingled at the thought of what we did last night. You're right. I wondered if he spoke to my dad about delaying his flight. I need to speak to my parents. I know, but I actually have no idea on where they are right now. She turned on the TV mounted on the wall opposite of my bed. They were there for dinner, but then they left with Dalton and Sasha and my mate. Speaking of mates, did you see Lucy today? Confused, I replied. Yes, she made snacks for the meeting today. Why? I was speaking to Connor while he was waiting for her. You know, when you guys were in the meeting. And oh my god, you should have seen the daggers she was throwing at me. Girl, I wanted to take a picture so I could show it to you. She strongly disliked the poor girl. I don't even bother nowadays. I was bone tired from arranging everything, running around like crazy. I felt Ocean's arms around my shoulders and my back before it replaced the fluffiness of my bed. Where's Macy? He planted a soft kiss on my forehead and lingered around for a while before leaving. The room fogged over suddenly. Smoky mist rose from the ground. I was suddenly laying in a chaise lounge with a dark sheet covering it. I looked around to find myself in a room full of arches, easels, mold papers, dark mahogany designer furniture littered around. The outdated state of the room didn't surprise me as much as the numerous painting of myself from different angles. A small easel blocked my view of the face behind it. He wore a white cotton shirt with lace woven through the top section of his front like a shoelace. The section was wide open. Brown pants covered his legs, leaving his feet bare. Not understanding what was happening, I moved my arm that was thrown over my head towards my torso that was bare. Startled, I tried to cover myself up with the sheet when a familiar voice stopped me. My owirch, my awamor. Hold still. Si prigadi. The vibrant, smiling face of Ocean popped around the easel. Jerking up, I realized I had fallen asleep. The curtains were drawn and Macy was gone. The phrase, my love, hold still, please, lingered around the fogginess. I didn't remember much about the dream, but I felt unbelievably uncomfortable and exposed after that. Drawing the covers up to my chin, I turned, nuzzling deeper in my pillow. I was still wearing my jeans and shirt, which I quickly swapped for long pajamas. My phone read 154 when I checked it before sleep lulled me under once again. You can't leave this quickly. That is absurd. I was quite surprised by my mother's outburst, but I did agree with the fact that the move was very abrupt. Dad already fixed it. I spoke to him this morning about it, and he managed to get all 4 of us on a flight to Northern on Tuesday. He can't wait any longer considering the risks for them. I tried to explain calmly. But you just got here. I hunted her down to her room. She was definitely trying to avoid me in order to prolong this confrontation. No, honey. Mom, you didn't leave here for a whole month when you met Dad. Come on. I sat down on the light gray chaise at the foot of her bed. The feel of it triggered a certain height that was far away to grasp clearly. You'll come visit anyways. It's tradition. Oh goddess. Ivy always wished for your mate, now HES here. Taking you so far away. You are such a drama queen. I'm old enough now. I would have gotten my own place if he hadn't come along. I rolled my eyes at her theatrics. What nonsense. She sat down next to me. Before she could say anything else to baby me, I took the lead. Let's be honest. This is going to happen whether you want it or not. He would have moved if he was an alpha, but that's not the case. And we both knew I never wanted the title. I waved my hands around trying to animate my words. Alpha Aruso was a beta turned alpha, and look how well HES done. HES lost 20 members in last 30 years. She countered. The northern part is a dangerous place. I know, but it's not his fault. You'll visit me next month and we'll talk on the phone, so please, Mom, don't worry. I wish that was the last conversation I had with her about my departure. She was trying to persuade my dad to stop me from going. At one point she even asked Toshin to delay it further, but I refused to keep him away from his endangered pack. That's how I found myself hiding away deep in the garden behind the tall hedges on the eve of my departure. I was itching to shift and waiting for nightfall to change into my light gray coat. I cowled and run, but at least let the beast out. A distinct Andewald scent hit my nose. I rolled my eyes, knowing exactly what that scent represented. I was irritated with her. I was irritated with everything. I just wanted to get over with it. Are you trying to hide from your mom? His accent was different and it made him sound even sexier. Is it that obvious? I retorted while pacing. You do realize she's a werewolf, right? She can find your scent. His expression remained stoic, but one side of his lips curled upwards when I halted to narrow my eyes at him. I need to shift or it'll go crazy. I carried on pacing. So you came out here to shift. He crossed his arms over his broad chest. A sleeve of his black shirt ended on his biceps, accentuating his muscles. I curled my fingers into a tight fist. My half-transforming sharp nails bit into my flesh. When the first drop of blood splattered on the fresh white snow, his eyes wide and a loud moan involuntarily existed in my throat when my spine bent forward, threatening to break into a different form. His arms circled me, immediately holding me with all his might, trying to keep my human body intact. It's my fault. I haven't marked you yet and it's haywire in your system. His touch soothed me slightly, but not by much. This is not supposed to happen. I gritted out through my fangs. It doesn't happen to others. The sudden urge of rage towards him was puzzling. I know. I'll explain it all, but I need you cool down first. He shoved me in the snow. No, he fucking buried me in it. What the fuck are you doing? Just wait. The snow was a coffin and he was the damn lid. His stupid touch intensified the roar in my blood. I was inches away from clawing his arms, but the cold wetness of the snow seeped through my dark turquoise jumpsuit. I could physically feel the beast inside of me subside slowly, retracing its steps backwards behind its hideout. My claws slid back. My internal battle cooled down enough to feel the external weight of my mate. The heat of his body melted most of the snow around him. You know, I could have just shifted right, finally lifting his face from the crook of my neck. He inhaled. Even though my stomach quivered, my eyes turned to slits. He pulled me up with confidence with a frown between his eyes. "How long has it been that you haven't shifted?" he asked curiously. The loss of his hands allowed the coldness to extend further into my skin. 3 months. His eyes widened slightly in horror, but not much else changed on his face. "You know that's not good for you, right? We don't have the security to do that. We live among humans. It's a sacrifice we have to make. Survival of the fittest. One had to adapt in order to survive, and we did. Our wolves were hungrier and more aggressive when they came out, and maybe we didn't the finesse as werewolves who had the privilege to change often, that our strength made up for it. When we reached the top of the staircase together, soaked in snow, I knew I had to ask him all the questions, but he always found ways to disappear with other alphas. Sighing, I opened my door, waiting for him to come in. He hesitated. "I don't think it's a good idea. I know you're not telling me things that I understand because we just met, but don't." A vehemence in his voice frightened me. "Don't devalue yourself that way." He shoved his hands in his pockets, eyes focused on me only. "That's not what I meant." I shook my head from side to side in denial. "You'll be able to change into your wolf whenever you want once we get to Darkwood." He paused before planting his feet on the threshold of the door. "Any time you want." His eyes adverted towards my open suitcases near the entry of my walk-in closet. "I want to help you, Ocean." I wanted to help his people find a better way to keep the hunters at bay. A loud guttural groan escaped his throat. His body physically relaxed, mouth slightly parted. I was thinking when I vocalized his name, wondering if he was upset at the insubordination. Wait. I had alpha blood by an alpha in training, and usually it was customary to refer to them with alpha. Fuck. He stared at my lips. I wanted him to kiss me again. Not the sloppy I couldn't wait any longer kind, but the soft sensual kind. But I wanted him to come in and come to me. "Get a good night's sleep. We leave early in the morning tomorrow." He turned towards his room. "Then you shift whenever you want. You can be free, Naya." There was something more behind his last words. Maybe the indication of my wolf being confined, but his eyes spoke differently. There was deeper meaning to it, and wanted to know what it was. I was going to find out one way or another. For Northern Naya's POV. My mother cried her eyes out when my last suitcase was loaded in the back of my dad's Rover. Luckily, Macy started crying for no apparent reason, which made us all laugh apart from Ocean, lightening the mood. I sat with Macy next to the window. I was slightly annoyed that he didn't sit next to me. "Wait, don't you want to sit next to Macy?" I wondered, looking at the boarding pass. "We have some logistics to look over from the meeting before we announce it to the pack." Aaron replied with a smile. I dramatically narrowed my eyes at him. "Really? Macy, ask him why he isn't sitting next to you." Mates scowled and lied to each other. "Why aren't you sitting next to me?" She put her elbow on my shoulder. "We have things to look over." Ocean replied, this time making my eyes turn into slits. I asked Macy about it while the boys fell asleep for a while on the plane. They seemed exhausted. According to Macy, they always talked telepathically throughout their stay at Greenville and stayed up most of the night talking logistics. I was sick and tired of hearing excuses. My intuitions were screaming at me, but one thing overpowered my senses. I need to shift. The crick in my neck was obtained from the sitting position. We were flying first class. Pull-out beds with separate partitions. No matter how much I tried to get some sleep, I physically couldn't. Also, knowing their time difference, I really needed to get some in because our flight might have left at 6 a.m. for Western Hemisphere time, but for the Northern, it was only 12 at night. Therefore, even with the 10 hours journey, we'd get there by 10 a.m. "Are you kidding?" Groaning at my calculations, I turned to face Macy, who was fast asleep. After taking a picture of her drooling open-mouthed face, I'd to get comfortable but still couldn't. The wolf wanted out. I also wanted my mate. This needy, clingy obsession was bad for my mental health. Yup, I'm going crazy. I stayed awake through the whole journey. I was growling at the littlest disruptions. One of Ocean's enforcers came to pick us up. Lion seemed slightly confused to see me. I wondered if Ocean had told his guards about me. His lead enforcer was in charge while they were gone. Lion was one of the fighters. He had a gun holstered to his belt. Guns weren't allowed where we lived, but according to Macy, it was available here. I've been here before. I came to Northern a couple of times for the annual gala since I was a kid, but I've never visited his town. Darkwood. I had been to Hexlaw to visit, but that was a whole forest and stayed away and had their own airport. We landed in Glasgow estate next to Darkwood. It was a 2-hour drive, but it was worth it. After 1 hour we entered a territory that was covered with pine trees. The treetops and ground were covered with snow. It was so beautiful I wanted to cry. It felt like I was home. The windows became foggy. I tried to clear a small section of it so I could marvel at the beautiful serenity. I've seen the pictures Macy had shown me, but she lived outside of the compound until a couple of weeks ago. I marveled at the beauty. Soon after we passed a 10-foot high cement wall with barbed wire top which kept stretched on for miles. "We're here," I heard Aaron say from the other side of Macy. Ocean sat in the passenger seat in front. I realized that a while back. The fact that I had a mate and I was moving to his pack hadn't sunk in until we arrived at the tall black gates. My heart was hammering like a small fluttering bird behind a cage trying to escape. The gates brought back heavy sense of déjà vu. Iron gates with a huge castle behind it. Only in this one the castle was replaced by endless line of trees with a dirt road in the middle. The jerky movements of the SUV didn't distract me from spotting out hidden houses scattered among the trees. They were normal 2- and 3-story cedar houses. Some log and stone cabins. They looked beautiful and somewhat modern. We kept going for another 15 minutes before Aaron spoke up. "Mace, we're up." We turned towards another dirt road and came across a large 1-story log cabin with stone chimney on the side and a wooden porch. "Oh, it's so beautiful." Frazzled, I turned towards Macy. "Am I staying with you?" I mouthed without making any sound. We couldn't mentally communicate with each other anymore. I felt her presence disappear when she severed her ties with us, and it was heartbreaking. Widening her eyes with concern, she turned towards Aaron and asked him the same question through their mind, Link stopping him halfway out of the car. Perplexed, he shook his head side to side. He looked at me. "Are you crazy?" He didn't need to verbalize those words in order for me to know exactly what the expression on his face meant. "I don't know." I ducked behind Ocean's seat mouthing those words. Aaron quickly looked towards Ocean and disappeared behind the car to get their suitcases. Macy hugged me abruptly. "I'll see you tonight." She jumped out, avoiding eye contact with anyone sitting in the front seats. Sitting back, I watched them round the back of the car, marched up the wooden stairs that was covered in shallow snow. She turned towards me to wave before disappearing inside. The car started moving again, and after 5 minutes we arrived at a clearing that had a 2-story cedar and stone house with a porch that had stairs leading up from the sides. It was a small cabin. None of the houses I saw were, but they held a real authentic feel to them, especially among the trees and everything being slightly covered in snow. Taking the cue from my mate, I got out of the car at the same time as him. He spared me a glance of disdain before walking towards the back to get his suitcase out. When I tried to get my suitcases down, he physically, politely snatched both of them from me, leaving his behind, and marched up the stairs. I looked at Lion, who picked up Ocean's bag and followed him inside. Frustrated, I huffed out a white puff of cold, foggy air. If I was a dragon, that would have been fire. Instead of going inside, I started to wander around the beautiful clearing. I wandered around, taking in the beautiful view. The sun peeked through the trees, softly kissing the flawless surface of the snow. I was surrounded by quiet nirvana. Nearing the edge of the clearing, close to the house, I heard a loud growl and sudden commotion coming from the open door. Ocean flew over the porch railing and landed on his feet with a loud crunch. Startled, I stepped back into the tree trunk behind me. He heard my gasp and stopped before he could make his way towards the very open car. Within a split second, he was in front of me. Hands tightly gripped my shoulders without hurting me. Instinctively, my elbow hovered centimeters away from his throat. My father taught me self-defense since I could walk. Father and daughter bonding sessions, he had said. He had a black belt in Take One, due with 5 gold stripes. My stomach faltered at our fight stance. We were mates for God's sake. He looked amused. His gaze flickered towards my elbow for a semi-sec. Letting go. He stepped back. Get in. He waited without taking his eyes off me. I wanted to say something. Ask why he keeps tackling me down. Rolling my eyes at his antiques, I walked around and up the stairs with him on tow. Lion stood just outside the threshold with his head hung low, hands intertwined behind his back. I wanted to explore, but I also wanted to see the inside of the house. I was awed at the sheer amount of work that must have gone into making this house. Everything was made of stone and wood. The high-ceiling fireplace in the living room was lit, but I was cold with a sweater on. It was surrounded by different-sized stones stuck together by cement. Wood was neatly piled up next to the iron fireplace. Beams crisscrossed each other methodically. He didn't seem to have a ton of furniture. Hardly any decorations. A couple of family pictures was mounted on the wall. I'll show you to your room. I followed Ocean upstairs and across the short bridge hallway towards the closed door on the other side. The door adjacent to the stairs remained locked. I looked down to see the open plan for the living room. The kitchen, however, didn't have a high ceiling. By the direction of where we were going, it looked like my room was above it. I asked Lion's mate to clean this up for you. A wide, dark wood wardrobe set right in line of the door. Double bed headboard backed up far against the wall with 2 windows and bedside tables on each side. I walked towards the wide window around the foot of the bed. A lone armchair and its footstool was diagonally situated in the corner. The tall trees and fog obscured the view of what could be mountains. It looked like his side of the house had a balcony. I know it's nothing like your mansion, but it is the best I can do. I didn't see any shame when I turned around. He was just stating the fact. The bathroom is right next door to you and the TV is downstairs. There should be food in the fridge. This is beautiful. Did you guys build the houses? I asked, running my hand across the granny walls. We didn't, still do. We sell them to the humans. Keep the ones we need. He sounded proud. It's lovely. It was an honest compliment. I have some work to do. Macy will come over before I leave, so don't worry. You won't be alone. He left without a backward glance. Confused by the abruptness, I marched to the door to find the door across from me, on the other side of the bridge, closing with a thud. For .5 screamed Naya's P. O.V. I woke up on my bed. It wasn't as fluffy as the one from home, but it was still comfortable. Everything smelled of fabric softener. That was the second time Ocean had carried me to my bed. His scent was still there. On my clothes. Sighing, I turned to check my phone. Mum, missed call 15. I didn't even bother to look at the text notification. Groaning, I just about turned away to try to fall back asleep when a knock came through the door. Come in. I wasn't a morning person, but it was 9:30 and I had been asleep for at least 13 hours. Ocean's head popped through door. He was dressed in cargo shorts and plain green tee, shirt like it was summer outside. I was wearing my long pajamas but still pulled my blanket up to my chin. There's breakfast downstairs and Macy will be here soon so you can spend the day with her. With that, he started to close the door. Vampire deception. By Drake Mason and E.Y. Gwait. As an undocumented changeling, I'm forced to pose as a low-level witch. He contemplated something before opening the door again. Aren't you supposed to? Introduce me to your pack or something. I was going to ask, aren't we supposed to do like make stuff? But I was glad that I didn't, because not only did that sound stupid and immature, it also had an underlying ill-suited implication if taken out of context. He looked deep in thought for a while. A small irritated frown appeared on the bridge of his nose between his eyebrows. Do you want it done today? Even though he was looking at me, the haze in his eyes made him seem deep in his thoughts. No, but it's that what usually happens, right? Yes, but we have time. He suggested. I also have to talk to the elders and enforcer. H.'s been gone too long, and I understood. Also, your mother called. She thought something had happened to you. I spoke to her, but I think you should too. I groaned once again. I heard the main door open. Ocean ducked out before I could even get more information out of him. Thank you. I shouted through the door for him to hear. I heard the floorboard pause mid-squeak. He didn't come in or say anything back but carried on walking. I quickly sent a message to my mum letting her know I arrived safely and that sometimes the connection is bad. I had no idea how she got through. By the time we finished breakfast, I ready for lesson from Macy on mates. We hardly spent any time together the previous day and doubted I would get any today. The kitchen was again beautiful crafted. It was medium size with a breakfast bar in the middle with high stools. A dining table with 4 chairs set near the window on the opposite. The fridge was fully stocked, making me wonder when did he have the time to do it. Also, I picked up on a common female smell that was partially mixed with lions. Maybe it's his mate. We ended up again on the sofa under the high ceiling that had black chandelier with branches that resembled the root of the tree. Damn, they really make everything. Don't they? I asked, amazed at the craftsmanship. Everything sells for like thousands. I mean 5 digits a piece sometimes. She was wearing leggings and a woolen sweater. I bugged out in surprise. I never visited, but there's a lake by the mountains and most of the men work there. Like the whole place is their workshop. Doesn't have to because he is the Baton and he has other duties, but if you're not a fighter or an enforcer, you're a carpenter or a builder or a painter. I mean, they are hard workers. Everything is so. I tried to find the right word without sounding offensive. I don't know. Hands-on. She nodded in understanding. I know what you mean. I was very strong about going to university and the elders disapproved. Now that I'm not working for any human company, it makes sense to why they would object. I saw her point of view. It was a different environment I had to adjust to. How about the women? I wondered. Same with women too. They can do the same stuff as men if they wanted to, but most are housewives and others makes clothes or jewelry or whatever they can sew they can sell. But some elders believe that it is important to give the next generations of werewolves a proper teaching about who we are and other supernatural beings rather than human ones. She paused, thinking over something. I get where they are coming from. Well, kind of, but there's also a freedom for them to choose whatever they want to do as long as it serves the pack. Growing up the way we did. Did you ever think we'd end up here? I asked, picked up my steaming coffee mug. That our mates would be from the same pack, yes. I always ask Spirit. Same pack, please. She made a desperate praying gesture, making me smile. Speaking of mates, what the hell are you supposed to do? I carried on. I mean, I'm here and now what? With Aaron? We had to live in the city, so it was just to most of the times, so we got to really know each other and enjoy each other. I mean, I hardly see him now. She explained, picking up her own coffee mug. Mine is just always gone. I rolled my eyes. Also listened to me complain, and it hasn't even been a week. I feel sorry for him. We both laughed at that. After reminiscing about the old days before she moved away, we decided to go for a run. She has never done it here before and I was curious. The sun was melting some of the snow away and it looked beautiful outside. The pine trees held their leaves, but some of the other trees had shed theirs. It looked haunted and mysterious. Like the wind that slid past the trees and made it towards the house was calling my name, provoking me to break a rule I didn't know about yet. It didn't take me much to convince her. She was giddy with excitement. It had been a very long time since both of us ran together. The snow sloshed beneath our feet as we hid behind trees to shift into our furs. A black t-shirt was tied to my ankles with simple shorts. I could hear each of my bones crack and reshape itself into a light gray wolf. The spirits gave us the power to control these shift. It was a beautiful gift. Macy walked out in her chocolate brown fur with green eyes, looking cuter than ever with a wolfish grin. We trotted towards the sun. Our vision changed as wolves. The smallest object became more prominent. The details magnified itself 1,000 times. Our visions as human was impeccable, but as wolves, a ray of energy could be seen bursting out from each object. Senses of smell and hearing amplified massively. Oh, it was glorious. We ran for a while. nearing the sweet smell of the lake only to have our view get obscured by a heavy stream of fog curving its way around the tree trunks. I lowered my snout towards the ground to wondering why the sky suddenly darkened. The fur protected me from the low temperature, but still I could a slight sting of cold seeping through. All I could see was the tree trunks around us. Dead grass tickling my jaw. Macy poked my side with the snout trying to catch my attention. She motioned for us to turn around and I did. We followed our own path backwards trying to find our way home, but the mist obscured our vision. We were relying on only our sense of smell. Suddenly my ears perked up to a high discharge noise and instinct told me to duck. I used extra force to drag Macy down with me, only to find a silver object dig itself into the large roots thinning out as it rippled its way in the ground-covered snow. Hunters. She didn't hear me, of course. That hurt slightly. I tried to connect with someone. Anyone, but I was all alone. We both dashed behind the tree trunks. I started digging into the snow to create a hole that I could ball myself behind until reinforcement came. I watched the brown wolf in front of me do the same with fear in her green eyes. A werewolf was substantially bigger than a normal wolf. Some reached to 5 feet depending on one's human size. The snow-covered trees were wide enough to hide us. Another whistle blew through the air. The bullet dug itself into the ground inches away from me. I was petrified. I didn't know the hunters were this aggressive and that Ocean's pack was in such danger. Now I am. I wanted Ocean here. Not because I couldn't protect myself, but I had no gun on me. Neither did I know I had to use one. I felt horrible for dragging Macy into this. I could by her frantic head movement she was communicating with Aaron, giving him the location that the bullet was getting closer and closer. I quickly changed into my human form and somehow managed to put my clothes on. In human form, the tree trunk hid me better than my larger wolf form, and with a dent in the ground, it was stable for now. I hunched down, remaining as low as possible. Macy followed my lead, however. She continued to communicate. A strange scenery blurred across my vision. Macy waltzed in front of me. It was someone else, a girl. Images rolled like it was from a B-movie. She looked dirty. Loud guns were being fired from both sides. We looked like we were in a ditch, but it was endless and narrow. You must run. Take him and leave quickly as possible. She extended her hand to give me the bag she had brought with her. Reaching out, I grasped her hand. Macy screamed. 5 bullet nay as P. Ove the bullet nearly grazed my skin. For a split second I thought I was somewhere else. I had reached out thinking it was reality, but it was only my imagination. For fuck's sake, what's wrong with me? There was another swish in the air above us, followed by a soft thud against the tree once again. I was beyond terrified. I knew how to fight, but how could I fight with someone who was miles away? It had been too long since my wolf was allowed to run free. I must admit, I got a little bit carried away. I hated not being able to communicate with anyone via our werewolf link. My old bond hasn't been severed yet because a new one hasn't been formed, but they were too far away. I had never felt so alone in my life before. The way she acted, it might not appear normal to a human, but I could tell she was speaking to Aaron. Her breathing slow. Her lips moved and she kept nodding her head. I wished I was in contact with my mate. Even though I was terrified inside, I remained calm on the outside. Separated emotions from logic. Another swoosh tore through the fog. A grunt came short after. A soft scream. Macy jumped across and hugged me fiercely. My senses became triggered. 5 smell hit my senses. I was already familiar with, thus my nerves calmed. I didn't know if it was safe to get out, but those 5 shadowy dispersed figures took form among the light grayish fog. Then emerges Ocean. The mist parted, swirled around him. He was panting like a bull. His chest was heaving uncontrollably. Macy ran into Aaron's arms and disappeared from my peripheral vision. My throat clogged up from unwashed tears when he raced towards me. My legs tentatively inched forward. Hands reached out to touch him. Are you crazy? What the hell is wrong with you? He grabbed my upper arms and gave me a good shake. I held on to his forearms from shock. I had initially thought he was storming towards me to comfort me, not scold me. I wanted to run. He told me I could be free. I shouted back from shock. His face looked murderous. I wanted him to hug me. How the fuck does that mean that you can go out and nearly get yourself killed? He brought me closer to his body without letting us touch. Why the fuck are you blaming me for hunters? Did I invite them to shoot at me? I was furious. My nails dug into his arms, but his remained intact. His chest caved in. Hot air blew my hair back. Letting me go, he stepped back. His breathing became controlled. Heartbeat returned to normal. The other shadowy figures broke through the mist. They had sniper rifles and holstered handguns. I felt foolish and embarrassed. I blinked a couple of times to hide the tears forming in my eyes. Crossing my arms, I looked at the thin shards of grass peeking out of the snow. Their unheld Macy so tightly in his arms. A crowbar might have been required to pry them apart. We should head back. His enforcers didn't move a muscle, but Ocean had turned his back to me before he even finished his sentence. I knew emotion formed in the pits of my stomach. I have never needed anyone to coddle me, but I wanted him to hold me. I walked quickly, not wanting to look Aaron in the eye for putting his mate in danger. This had never happened to me, and I didn't think it would on our first run. I wondered about the human sniper. How could he see in this intense mist? Heat ray detectors. The walk home was shameful. It took us half an hour to get back. Macy tried to talk to me, but I just couldn't deal with being around people. My emotions were acting up again. Something was screaming at me from the back of my mind. I quickly apologized to her and Aaron without looking them in the eye and walked away as quickly as possible. They let me go. An enforcer with short brown hair and keen milk chocolate brown eyes followed every move I made. He wasn't as built as the others, but he looked sharp. He was holding the long-range rifle. I couldn't see anyone else properly due to the fog. I kept thinking of these recent images I kept seeing. My mother was a behavioral psychologist. She would sometimes explain actions about people to me, but other times she educated me about mental illness, schizophrenia, depression, bipolar disorder, and many more. Werewolves couldn't get ill. Physically, that is. But could we get ill mentally? I'm only 22. It couldn't be schizophrenia. Yup, I'm going crazy. Somebody just tried to kill me, yet here I am thinking about an illness that a wolf couldn't get. Honestly, I didn't know. I knew those thoughts brought tears to my eyes. I still felt angry. I doubted that was my emotions. I had no reason to be angry. I wanted to go home, wash the dirt off my hands and from under my nails. My hands shook and my vision blurred from the tears once again. Using the back of my hand, I wiped my eyes before tears could touch my cheeks. An alpha must NT cry. An alpha is strong and resilient. You are going to lead the pack. My father's voice kept running through mind. I wanted to go home. More tears formed in my eyes the minute my father's house came into my mind. I was protected. I needed to fucking toughen up. I widened my eyes, trying getting rid of them. Wolves loved to stay in packs, and now that it was messing with my system. Ocean didn't speak to me once the rest of the day, even though he was in the house, slamming things around. I bawled like a baby in the bathtub, pressed the back of my hand against my mouth trying to muffle the sounds. I wondered if he felt it. Even if he did, he didn't act on it. No one ever shot at me in my life. I didn't dare to tell my parents about it when I called my dad later in the evening. They seemed to be doing fine, and Alex had finally accepted his role as an alpha. He was being trained by my father. The difficult part of the transition was the spiritual evolution from beta to alpha. One can earn his way to the top and one can fall from his reign. But in this case, my father was handing it down. If I spoke to my mom, I would have started to cry once again, therefore I asked him to tell her I was okay. But I was far from it. My eyes were puffy when I went downstairs for dinner. I must ask him who cooks for him, considering HES never home. It was my time to bang the cabinets, doors, and fridge. The lights were dim around the house. The shadows slanted around the dark surfaces. It looked like a haunted house. I ate as quickly as possible. It was roast chicken and vegetables. Whoever made it was a good cook. I felt so cold and lonely. My heart dropped as tears sprang to my eyes. I haven't cried this much since forever. I heard footsteps going back and forth for a while upstairs, and just when I finished my dinner and put the plate in the dishwasher, I pulled out the chocolate cake that was newly inserted in the fridge. I heard something going on downstairs when I was in bed and crying. I just didn't care then. I knew the incident had finally settled in. I could have died from that damn silver bullet. Finally, Ocean opened his bedroom door. The tiny squeak gave it away. The lamp in the far corner next to the dining table was the only light source in the kitchen. He came downstairs, crossed the dark living room before emerging from the shadows. I kept my eyes on my cake. At first I was mad at him for scolding me like I was a child. But I was just plain old disappointed at him for not even caring enough to check up on me or having any kind words for a traumatized mate. The white light over my head illuminated the dark granite island. The reflection blinded me slightly. I used my other hand to block my eyes. "Did you eat?" His gravelly voice tore through the awkward atmosphere. I made an affirmative noise at the back of my throat. My gaze went to his feet from behind my hand.
My hair was slightly frizzy and wavy.
I didn't have the energy to blow dry it. "Oh, for fuck's sake. I don't care. Can I get you something?" No attitude laced my answer. I finally looked at him. He blinked in surprise. I must look crazy. Gulping, he came forward. "Are you okay?" He tried to sound soft, but because of the baritone of his voice, it just sounded dense and serious. Clearing his throat, he tried again. "Are you?" "I'm fine." I interrupted him. Suddenly my appetite disappeared. Picking up my bowl, I shoved it inside the fridge. "Aren't you going to eat that?" "Of course." I was going to throw it out. It'd have to be crazy to waste a good piece of chocolate cake. "I'm not hungry anymore." "No, you must eat." "I'll go." He sounded desperate and it tugged at my heart. "Fucking mate pull." "It's fine. You eat." Without making eye contact, I finished my water and walked around the counter to head for my room. "Wait, just..." He blocked me under the kitchen threshold. His face softened when he finally looked at me so closely. His eyes wandered over my face, landing on the puffiness of my eyes. Reluctantly, his hands cupped my cheeks. Thumbs swiped across my cheeks. I waited for him to finish, waited for an apology, but it never came. Rolling my eyes, I ripped my face away from his hands. Light from the kitchen spilled into the lounge, but all I wanted was darkness around me. "Wait." He grabbed my forearm, halting in my place. Look. I didn't know you were crying." He sounded sad. I rolled my eyes once again. "I was shot at." I kept my voice low but stern. "I've never been shot at." I looked him in the eye. "I nearly died." He physically flinched. It was the first time ever I saw a different emotion on his face other than intensity. He looked like he was going to be sick. His hand automatically reached for his throat. My stomach flipped. "I can't have anything happen to you." He pulled me to him, but this time every inch of my body was pressed against his contours. It wasn't even that. "I thought you'd be relieved to see me in one piece. But you just acted like it was my fault." I tried to rip myself away from him, but he held on to me like his life depended on it. "Don't you ever say that. You understand." He spoke through gritted teeth. "You're my mate. Then act like it." I shouted in his face, going toe-to-toe with him. He was a foot taller. "You humiliated me. In front of your enforcers. Do you know how embarrassing it was?" Tears sprung to my eyes, but they were from anger. I hated it when that happened. It made me appear weak. It was my intention. "If you want, you'll speak to them." "Does he ever apologize?" "I don't want you to speak to anyone. I don't want to speak to you right now." Wet beads fell down my cheeks. He became frantic. His thumb swiped them away quickly. His brows furrowed in concern. Mouth hung open. "What I wanted was you to treat me like I was your mate when you found me instead of act like I was some inconvenience." He kept shaking his head from side to side. "I needed you to just reassure me, but the time's passed. You had the whole day, and the moment is gone." I schooled my features and managed to successfully wrench myself away from him. "I don't need you now, and fine." It was like that. "Just listen to me," he spoke as he followed me. I was furious at myself for letting something like that happen to you. Just wait. I looked back at him. I'll die if something happened to you. He stroked the back of my hair. His heartfelt confession made me sagging against the threshold. I was mad at me. Not you. Sighing, he rested his lips against the hairline of my forehead. Next time, I'll go with you. Just tell me when you want to go. His lips moved against my skin in a soothing trance. I'm sorry for everything. He gathered me in his arms and hugged me tight. I bunched his shirt up into my fist. I inhaled deeply, burying my nose into his chest. It felt good to be comforted after the day I had. We stood there for a long time. Every then and now he would peck the side of my head. He was a good person, but just rough around the edges. It was up here, but we could see just fine. I appreciated his apology, but I was still mad at him. Detangling myself from him, I went into my room. 5.5 hallucination nays POV. I'm still mad at you. I told him. I know. As long as you're okay, I don't care if you hate me. He tenderly ran his fingertips down my cheeks. I don't hate you. I was disappointed. I sounded like a damn parent. He looked like he couldn't help himself. Eyes kept wandering around my face desperately. He gently took my chin and placed a fleeting kiss on my lips. I felt butterflies in my stomach. It was an odd sensation, and I liked every second of it. He backed away slowly. I smiled a small smile. It wasn't a happy one, but a smile that portrayed truth. I didn't say anything, and neither did he. There was a small smile on his face when I closed the door on him. Our conversation might not have resolved anything, but we were at least on common ground now. I'm so sorry. I'm really sorry. Wait. Why are you sorry? Why are you so ilgo? Just always the over-enthusiastic one. I am so sorry. I don't say anything. I'm sorry because I left you there alone. I was so scared, and Aaron wouldn't let me go, and it was just, oh my god, I won't go home, and you like disappeared in the fog. I couldn't see anyone. Breathe, babe. I breathed in myself, then exhaled, and when she finished imitating me, she was hyperventilating as much. I should have been there. She finished off in an exhale. I'm sorry for dragging you into that. If I had known, that I never would have done that. We were in my room at 9 in the morning. I started to see a pattern here. Aaron would bring her here and pick Ocean up to run off to wherever they were needed. I wasn't complaining, but I wanted to spend time with my mate. I was just glad that you were there, or I would have literally started running like a wild coyote. I chuckled at her comparison. I'm so hungry, though. Speaking of, who the fuck makes the food? I finally asked. She sat on top of the blanket. If we were home, she would have been under the covers and asleep. Aaron's mom. She laughed a little. It's great because I don't know how to cook. She cooks for Ocean. I didn't understand. So there are a lot of enforcers, fighters and guards. They get trained up in the valley, and it's like the military school. So they have cooks, right? It's like that. Aaron's mother is the head chef there, and after training, the boys go home or get their own place, but they have family that can help them out. Alpha Ocean doesn't have anyone, and he has too busy to cook, so she gets someone to bring it over and stock up his fridge. That made perfect sense. It had been a while since I saw Lydia Draco's. She was a selfless woman. Others have to pay, though. She added, Old Lion's mate works at the pack house with Mama Evie, and she sometimes brings it over because they live the closest to here. I wish Ocean would bring me up to speed on things. HES always gone. I finally got out of bed. By the time we went downstairs, it was 10 in the morning, and we were starving. There was a scent in the air that bothered me. It was of the enforcer who safeguarded me home. I was foolish enough to repeat my actions from yesterday, but I was smart enough to know what was going on. Macy walked towards the kitchen, whereas I went straight out the door once I got down the stairs. He was somewhere around, and it was misty today, so could seek him out. Maya, you're not Sue. I held my hand out for her to stop. She ran out, but didn't cross the threshold. I used my wolf vision to seek him out, but he had hidden himself well enough. It took me nearly a minute. I knew by the slight movement of the branch he realized I had caught him. Macy, what's for breakfast? I asked, making sure he heard. Pancakes. She kept averting her eyes from me to the large tree miles away. You might as well come down and join us. I kept my eyes glued to him. Who the hell are you talking to? She probably thought I was going crazy until a loud thump encouraged her to finally step out. He was miles away, but it him less than 2 minutes to reach the clearing. His short brown hair was sleek ed back, the long-range rifle slung over his shoulder. A sly smirk danced on his lips. How did you even know? He looked impressed. Take a guess. I indicated him to follow us. I thought city princesses didn't get alpha training. His snide little comment didn't bother me. Granted, I didn't know how to shoot, but I could fight. Maybe I should get some lessons. Ocean sadness engulfed my heart. I gravely missed having the connections with fellow wolves. Just anyone would do at this point. I'm an only child. My dad wanted me to take over, that's why he trained me well, so no one could question my ability. Makes sense. In the old days, queens could rule a whole nation, so why not a female alpha? He shrugged. I stopped in my tracks and gave him a mischievous look. You're smart. We're keeping you. He looked like a confused puppy, but the stack of pancakes sitting on the island distracted him. He put his rifle on the counter before grabbing himself a plate and started eating like an animal. Touch so. You're here. Why? I pointed my fork at him. His name was Joshua and he was only 21. He was barely an adult and Ocean left him to guard me. He must be an excellent enforcer. Some of the syrup dripping down from the piece of pancake at the end hit his arm that he licked away immediately. I scrunched my face up at Macy, who laughed with a mouth full of pancake. I'm here to make sure someone can shoot back when you're getting shot at. He stated without any condescending connotation behind it. Maybe we should learn how to shoot. I suggested. Or you can have an enforcer with you. He countered. You were the sniper who shot the human. He was distracted, yes. He seemed shocked by his confession. He was young, around my age. He must be an excellent sniper for Ocean to have him in his elite team. I didn't like the idea of someone babysitting me, so maybe I could learn to shoot myself. Were we really close to edge of the territory? I wondered. From outside it looked like the land was bigger. Honestly, no. That fucker got in. You were nowhere near the edge. You can run for hours in these woods. He looked sympathetic. You know you can just do whatever you want here, right, hunters? He added before I could have smacked him upside the head. You have to let the enforcers know, so they can be on a lookout. But aren't the guards always on the lookout? There were cameras pointing outwards all around the tall walls. The whole place was surrounded with high technology, but the homes were as authentic as ever. Yes, on monitors, but it got unbelievably foggy yesterday suddenly. I don't know what the hell happened. He shook his from side to side to side. He couldn't believe it himself. What about heat sensor cameras? I asked. We have them, but we didn't even realize the weather was going to change that drastically, so I don't think guards even had time to switch. He explained. I wanted to see how it worked and where their control room was. I want to see your training ground. Before he could say no, another thought attacked my mind. I want to see the main sites. No can do. I've been ordered to keep you safe. His hand subconsciously brushed his rifle. You can keep me safe wherever we go. I stated sarcastically, but honestly, if we were under attack once again and guns were involved, I was going to be stupid enough to throw a tantrum about having a babysitter. Especially when one was a highly trained sniper. I have to ask the Alpha. He seemed skeptical about it. Ask him, and if he says no to you, I'll just go by myself. He looked at his rifle. By WW, what are you going to? Shoot me? He gulped. I was just as fast and no long-range snipers were involved. Also, Ocean would probably kill him. Fine, but when the Alpha finds out, I'm gonna blame it all on you. He shouldered his rifle before putting his plate in the dishwasher. Where do you want to go? Macy asked. Excitement filled her eyes. I get to see everything last year because we left as soon as I came here. The only place I know is the lake and it's gorgeous, but I want to see the workshop and the pack house. Where do you think Ocean is more likely be at? I asked Joshua. Control room more at the border from where the human got in. He answered confidently. Pack house then. I decided while clearing things away. Pack house is right next to the training ground. They make the food there and it's like a big canteen. You know what you'll see when we get there. Joshua led the way. The snow was settling again. According to the map I saw on the plain, Darkwood was situated along the shores of the Nemerian Ocean. Even though they were in the northern hemisphere, Darkwood was at the bottom right corner. The vast mass of Nemerian water divided the central from north. The warm equatorial breeze always brought spring quicker than expected. Winter and spring played tug-of-war until the snow gave way to the sun. It was a beautiful state. Alpha Jacelor Russo's pack was straight up north and they also didn't like outsider. That's IVE never visited their pack. Rumor was Alpha Aura Say was a turned alpha when their future alpha and his mate was killed. No one knew about how they were killed. Since then the pack kept to themselves. There were a couple of other small packs scattered around the northern states, but Hexlaw was the only one that didn't mind outsiders. They were a city-based pack as well. High-rise buildings, booming businesses, and unlimited Wi-Fi. I rolled my eyes at the last thought. Taking my phone out of my pocket, I started at the no service sign. It's been a day or two and I haven't complained yet, so I was definitely proud of myself. But in reality I loved the peacefulness even though I missed my family and friends, but my best friend and mate was here. Only problem was that I was going crazy. The dreams had barged itself into my reality. I kept thinking about how I physically reacted to the imagination. Hallucination. That was the correct term. It was the first time I had any type of physical reaction to it. Putting back my phone in my hoodie's pocket, I clenched my fists. The snow crunched beneath our boots. The sun escaped the clouds every now and then, but the heat was strong enough yet. I looked around, spotting couples similar large cabins far away. I needed to talk to someone because I couldn't wait for it happen again. What if it was my whole body that came into the line of fire instead of my hand the next time? 6. Chivalry May as P. OVE the pack house was barn-style 3-story building. Snow covered the ground around it. Mountains on the far ends zigzagged across the horizon. The treetops danced along to the wind. There were numerous people outside. I felt overdressed in a hoodie and full-length jeans. The land around the barn was flat with hardly any snow on it. Men and some women dressed in black shorts and tank tops formed a circle. Cheers and applause rang through in chorus. "Come on," a high-pitched female cried through the other voices. "You can do it. This is so embarrassing. Hit 'em low. Hit 'em low." They were all men. My lips lifted at their savage enthusiasm. When we finally emerged from the trees and walked up the gravelly road, I found people sparring in the middle, rolling around on ground. All female versus a large bulky male. On the other side of the barn, women huddled around in groups while children played in the playground. It looked an extravagant treehouse with swings, slides, grid ropes, bridges and tunnels. It was amazing. I wondered about school. It was the middle of the week. Kids and teenagers roamed freely around the ground. I guess it was the hub of the community. Some of them noticed us. The whispers started. I didn't want them to know about my foolish mistake I made yesterday. Put one of their pack members in danger. That was not a smart decision. I was second-guessing my decision to come out here. Luckily, Aaron's dad was among the brawlers. His head snapped back to us as we moved forward. Macy made her way towards the 6 feet of a man with similar features to Aaron. "Joshua, stay with me." His rifle seemed out of place. Macy ne ogata sigh heard. He looked ecstatic. A call of people turned from the circle, but everyone else was glued to what was going on in front of them. They kept on cheering. "It's so good to see you." Macy was engulfed by a bear hug. She adored her mate's side of the family, Mr. Draco's. "It's nice to see you again." I extended my hand forward. "Oh, come here." He pulled me into a hug, somewhat awkward from my part. "We're practically family. How are you?" "It's been a while." Macy stood on the side, next to both of us. "We're good. I've just been training those months." I wish I could say everything was all well and good, but unfortunately it isn't. He stuck his hands into his shorts pocket. "No. I'm sorry. I sent a silent prayer to the spirits about yesterday. Hopefully Ocean kept his words and didn't tell anybody. "What are you guys doing here?" he asked. "I've hardly seen the main sectors and this is her first time here, so Joshua is giving us a tour." Macy explained. "Joshua, when Ocean told me your on security details, I didn't know you were going to be with my son's mate." He didn't seem pleased with Joshua. His friendly smile morphed into a disapproving frown. "Commander." Joshua, on the other hand, acted a little smug. "So, like she said, we couldn't wait to explore." I tried to get his attention back on anything but Joshua. "Come, I'll introduce you to the people of your future pack." His smile was back on his face. It felt odd to hear that out loud. It sounded official. Butterflies filled my stomach. The sparring carried on for a while, so we decided to visit the quarters first. One thing I noticed is that they didn't clear roads. We rounded the ring werewolves and into the woods once again. A couple of them turned with wondering eyes. I didn't know if they knew Ocean had found his mate. They didn't seem like a friendly bunch. The ones that noticed motioned for others to stare. I'm sure by their long silent eye contacts, they were communicating via their wolf link. I would have done anything to know what they were saying. It was a 2-minute walk from the open ground. It was odd to see actual stone building blocks. I was getting used to the ethereal feel of wood being used everywhere. The quarters were typical military style, but the program was completely different. There were 2 two-story buildings and a long 1-story building. There was a basement attached to it. According to Stephen, the basement was a firing range. The hill near the mountains was where the long-distance gun range. He introduced us to some enforcers and guards in training. When he said, "I was Ocean's mate," they appeared shocked at first. Some lowered their heads slightly. Some only looked down and some looked skeptical. The quarters were divided into rooms big enough house for people at a time. Cozy twin bunk beds, wardrobes, tables, chairs, and private showers. Steve mentioned there were 20 rooms in one and 10 in the other. I didn't understand why they needed this because everyone lived close anyways. When we were heading towards the gun range, I asked Joshua about it, to which he answered, "Sometimes beginners got extremely exhausted so they could crash here. Other times, if training exceeded past curfew, if there was an attack from hunters anytime, anywhere, a curfew is always placed, they could crash here. Even if they lived far away, they could live here as long as they needed. Food was always available in their own quarters and hot meals are always served at the pack house. Training was in full session when we entered 1-story long building. There were about 11 pairs of people practicing hand-to-hand combat. The instructors were screaming out techniques they missed or should add. The various stench of sweat hit my nostrils. I wanted to gag. Everyone I entered the room with stepped back, like it was a physical blow. We spoke to the coaches for a short period. I wanted to get in the gym myself, practice some hand-to-hand combat. I didn't voice my desires out loud. I wanted to speak to Ocean first. It was his territory. I wasn't even a pack member yet. The gun range fascinated me. The noise-canceling headphones, eye protectors, smell of gunpowder and of guns surrounded the highly secure basement. Bulletproof glass divided every part. I didn't know anything about guns. Joshua looked like he was in a candy store. I held a Glock 19 in my hand. The heaviness of the object surprised me. I knew experience I wanted to embrace. By the time we entered the pack house ground, the little groups grew bigger. Couple of new ones formed. I welcomed the different new scents. A very familiar scent floated through the air among a couple of others. Oh shit. I looked at Joshua like we were caught doing something we shouldn't. He gulped, looking slightly scared. He might have issues with his commander, but I'm guessing he feared his alpha. Macy grabbed my arm as we walked towards them. The whole team from yesterday was there talking to the people who were previously occupied by the fighting, facing away from us. An uncomfortable hush fell across the field. My mate turned his head. My stomach dropped. I realized how handsome he was. His back muscles stretched under the simple navy shirt. The tan cargo pants did nothing to take away from his strong silhouette. His hair looked slightly in disarray. A holster was attached to his hip. He turned with eyes blazing with fire. If he embarrassed me in front of his whole pack, I was going to lay him out right there. If only? I mentally scoffed. I think everyone held their breath, but it was then I realized his gaze kept adverting to poor Joshua, shaking his head in mid-stride. His face filled with concern when his eyes met mine. It puzzled me how I suddenly found him so attractive. My emotions went crazy when he gently put his hand on me. "What are you doing here? Is everything okay?" he asked in concern. Warm hand wrapped itself around my upper arm like a band. "Yes, we just wanted to look around," I explained. Understanding filled his expression. "That's good. Come." He removed his hand from my arm and quickly sprawled it out on the small of my back, guiding me towards the pack house. "I don't want anything official. I just wanted to see main sectors." He picked up on the panic in my voice. "Don't be nervous." His hand moved up and down in soothing motion. I could feel the eyes on us from behind. I was not expecting this. "How about we go inside? I'll introduce you to some elder." I nodded my head in affirmation. Everyone on the other side was pretending to mind their own business. The voices picked back up. This time all the topic of conversation became about us apart from Aaron and his father. Macy was with them. I hope I didn't take away from anything serious. Deep down I knew this would happen. I knew word would get around that a stranger was walking around the ground and he would come. Instantly I felt guilty. A hunter trespassed yesterday and he was needed there. I shouldn't have used our mating pole to make him drop his work and come all the way over here. Alpha responsibilities were sacred. I shouldn't have interfered. We were coming to eat here anyways. He checked the watch on his wrist. It read 12:03. "I heard you were here, so I decided to come early." He guided me straight past the first floor, climbed up the little dip and back around again straight towards balcony that lead to the entrance of the second floor. Before I could lift my hand to open the door, he gave me the same look he did when I got out the car. Oh, chivalry wasn't dead yet. His hand remained glued to my back. The smell of delicious food hit my taste buds. This was a different pack custom. Rows and rows of what looked like picnic benches were positioned vertically from the entrance to the back of the hall. The thick wooden trunks acted as pillars for support near each corner. Fairy light set without clothes itself around beams that supported the ceiling. Some tendrils of wires hung off from the main line. It looked mesmerizing, especially with the gloomy day outside. The large windows on each end mirrored paintings I've seen before, of trees and mountain tops covered in snow. I couldn't believe how picturesque this place was. "You've met Livia. She runs this place along with Octavia, Lion's mate. You've met Lion. I'll introduce you to them." He guided me towards the long service line. Every head turned when we entered, but Ocean ignored them. I spotted Livia just behind the open service station, slotting in large buffet-style pans in empty slots. Steve's voice got her attention. She had to do a double take before she finally realized I was standing there. Dropping her pan crookedly in the slot, she disappeared behind the cedar wall and marched out of the kitchen double doors. Her elegant poise appeared hurried as she came towards me. She wore a white apron with a couple of red smears on it, and a plastic hairnet. She was a tall woman. "If I had known you'd be his mate, I would have brought you home with me last year." She engulfed me in a tight hug. I knew she treated Ocean like her own son because of Aaron. When he stayed over at my parents' place for Christmas, we had a long conversation about how different our customs were between the two packs. It was more like a rant from Aaron's part and a lending ear from mine. I remember him mentioning how his parents took Ocean and after his parents were killed, helped him build the sanctuary, and how much he hated not being within the security of these walls. Unfortunately for him, he couldn't move back in straight away after Macy graduated last summer because they were building their house. So they stay in the city until December right before Christmas. Then after a week or so, Macy went to visit her parents, and that's when everything blew up. He just couldn't take it anymore. For someone who grew up secluded in the woods, it was hard for him to adjust to the craziness of the city life. "Livia, it's so nice to see you again." What did one say to that? My mate and I were on rocky terms already. I didn't to add fuel to the fire by making a sarcastic remark. "I'm good, honey. How are you? How's your mother doing?" They bonded quickly when Aaron's family came to visit. The Draco's family had a hard time adjusting to human culture that we were accustomed to. However, my mother was from a semi-secluded pack. The pack lived close by to each other but followed normal human rules, which included anything from school to jobs, but their tight-knit community kept some of the old rituals alive. She was crying. I've been avoiding her honestly because she will probably start crying again. I held on to my arms until then. Give me a moment, dear. Livia walked over to her mate, Son and Macy, to greet them.